YouTube comments from a video titled, Why Medieval Bread Was a Superfood While Your Modern Bread Makes You Sick. Part 10.
Idir 999 wrote,
Excellent informative video. Thank you. I stopped eating all carbohydrates. It's all industrially destroyed in terms of being any good for us. In fact, it's destroying everyone's health. It's sad to realize most people just trust the govt food agencies to monitor the food chain, not realizing govts are all corrupted by industry lobbyists. Your MPs are corrupted to hell. If they gave even the slightest care for us, they would stop industrial destruction of our food. It's up to us to educate our own families and try to open the eyes of others. Your guft is part of the problem.
Egwindon wrote,
I have never once felt bad after eating bread. Ever. I live off carbs. Pasta, bread, cakes, brownies, cookies, etc. I love the stuff. I'm 130 pounds as an adult man, so ick what people mean when they say it makes you bloated or fat or anything of the sort. I know the last three are high in sugar, but that's not why I like them. It's the bread. Bread is awesome.
At John Nunn 8688 wrote,
I buy only from my local bakery, which we are lucky to have. Buying only wholemeal bread, which contains organic wholemeal flour, water, salt, and yeast, and is lovely.
At BWise for Life wrote,
My gut is exactly why I started making whole wheat sourdough bread from starter years ago. I have no ill side effects after eating it, and my blood sugar doesn't spike. I also make several loaves at once and freeze them, which further reduces the glycemic index. My favorite bread is a fresh whole wheat sprouted grain sourdough mixed with some oat flour and has oats/seeds on the outside.
At Grant Hicks 9 wrote,
Interesting, but too slanted. Does not address problems caused by stone particles in the flour, shorter shelf life and modern distance from baking centers, etc. would be good to have citations of studies used to support conclusions. Good ideas about alternative solutions to modern wheat spelt, etc.
At Andrew A. Hayes wrote,
I have been baking my own bread using locally milled heritage grain organic flour for decades. I was living in the Netherlands. When I came back to the UK, I realized there was something wrong with the bread, and it stayed fresh forever. Even the bread from the bakery didn't seem right. My partner and I started baking our own bread, at the start from supermarket flour, and then we found a local farm shop that sold locally milled organic flour, made from locally grown heritage grain wheat and spelt. It was like night and day when compared to retail bread.
At Ms. Denver 2 wrote,
Very interesting video as I find modern bread terrible, so I bought a bread making machine, but I'm having the same problem because the flour I buy is wrong. What can I do?
At user CM6TJ2 he 4B wrote,
In Germany, the bread is still of high quality from your local baking shop. It will go bad after max parentheses 2 days because they don't use artificial ingredients, no bullshit. You can get many variants of old styles of bread, baked fresh every day.
At LaserWolf65 wrote,
753 It wasn't efficient, but it was resilient. NOITW Azandi. Every other fucking few years, there were large-scale droughts that killed tens of thousands of people. So sure, you have some points. But you're trying to make it out like we made the switch in agriculture and processing for literally no reason when, in fact, there were dozens upon dozens of excellent reasons to make the switch.
At Direct Haskin 9055 wrote,
Yeah, British bread sucks. Try real continental bread: German, French, Dutch, Spanish, Swedish, etc. all made with proper grain sorts and additives so the bread goes stale after 1 or 2 days.
Adaince 82 wrote,
Medieval bread was full of tiny rocks due to being ground up between stones. Those rocks then destroyed the protective layer on teeth, leaving people toothless by their 30s. Which was fine, since life expectancy wasn't much greater anyway.
At Peruvian Free Chickens wrote,
Bro, bread was invented by Egyptians to give cheap food to the slaves as payment to keep them barely alive as they died at the age of 30. Nowadays, people still eat bread, pasta, rice instead of quality meals, meat, eggs, fiber, and they believe is something good when it's shit food, not superfood at all. It only causes disease. Medieval bread was no different. It was a food for the poor. The rich always had meat.
At Solialvamir wrote,
Modern bread inflames your gut, spikes your blood sugar, leaves you hungry an hour later. In 1324, the average peasant consumed 2 to 3 pounds of bread every day. My brother in Christ, a normal baguette is 8 ounces. These people were consuming at least 6 baguettes a day. It wasn't a superfood. It was the ONLYFOOD.
At Dam5453 wrote,
I love bread. I remember it being so much better 30 plus years ago. Thanks to this video, I was able to locate a bakery that sources hard flour and mills it the old way. Looking forward to trying their bread brought flour.
At Bill Shearer 3984 wrote,
What was the life expectancy back then? Grains are no good for people. I don't care how medieval they are. Yes, it will keep you from starving to death in the short term. We are not designed to digest grass or its seeds. If you must eat bread, eat the good stuff. But stay away from it as a general rule. Wisdom here. Been there, done that. Type 2 diabetes, obesity, the whole 9 yards. Stay away from grains.
At Susie Miller 2621 wrote,
Pork is loaded with a ton of histamine. So eat only as a rare treat, if at all, when histamine resistant. It will make you feel heavy and tired and bloated. Make sure you take an OTC-DAO enzyme and you will be good.
At Alien in This World wrote,
They told us not to eat red meat. They told us not to eat saturated fats. They told us not to eat eggs. They told us to limit salt. They told us to avoid the sun. They told us to eat seed oils. They told us to eat whole grains. They told us to drink fluoride. They told us to lower cholesterol. Why? So they could build a multi-trillion-dollar farming, food and pharma industry off our failing health. So do the opposite and thrive.
At Eric Olson 6135 wrote,
This is a fantastic breakdown of the breads we ingest daily. We have made our own bread before, and it's amazing. What I would like to ask is this. Can properly made bread be frozen or stored? Reasons I ask. If we make breads and not consume it in time, it'll spoil, so how do we store bread that actually, i.e., food?
At Susie Miller 2621 wrote,
Best to just drop bread and flour-based foods if you are not making your own to know what is in it. Especially if you're a natural carnivore by blood type O. Today's store-bought breads destroy gut integrity. Buy gut health.
At Jeffrey Hughes 7107 wrote,
I won't argue the differences between modern high-yielding wheat and legacy varieties, or that modern mass-produced bread is bad, but knowing exactly what folks suffered and didn't suffer 1,000 years is doubtful.
At Susie Miller 2621 wrote,
Another hidden issue for gut health are called the dirty super 7 genes. They are the DNA that drives digestion. If broken, you develop acid reflux from those dying digestive acids. Unresolved, you will not be able to digest at all. That is an even more miserable slow starvation death. Today we call that insulin resistance, IBS, and Parkinsonism. Cows and horses are good examples of plant-based guts. Humans have classic carnivore guts. Blood type antigens also matter, and those develop with agriculture. Oiseeldes, the nomad hunters who follow food sources. Then we got A, as agriculture developed and humans started to live in communities. B came later, and A even later. The Alamo books on blood group diets are keenly interesting, all about your antigens and antibodies. Leaky gut drives autoimmune diseases. Raw food particles escape the gut barrier that has been broken from too much processed foods that inflame and ruin that delicate membrane. Also about a healthy gut biome, wounded or destroyed with your first antibiotics. Too much sugar fuels rapid growth of SIBO, SIFO bloat after meals, then EAPS/constipation, then Parkinsonism. Remember Michael G. Fox? Parkinsonism is becoming another hidden epidemic as a result. Human body was engineered for 120 years. Most only get 70 errors. Why? Our processed crap high sugar food supply. Your brain is synapses and cholesterol. Clean food, clean saturated fats are what matters, not highly processed seed oils. Treat your body like an F1 race car. Only pristine food for your body makes you strong, and you can live to hug your great-grandbabies, which, again, depends on the strength of your detox pathways, dirty super 7, and thyroid. Digestive enzymes/immune system is directly connected to these 7 genes. Gut and thyroid health, which drives your entire metabolism, digestion, and immune system. Resources: How to Bulletproof Your Immune System video by Dr. Eric Berg, Dirty Genius. Book, Dr. Ben Lynch. Super Gut Book, Dr. Wem Davis. Be Well, I Beat Parkinson's. Histamine resistance and insulin resistance this way. It's not easy to recover from sugar addiction. Hersheimer response is miserable to push through. It can be done with epigenetics and functional medicine, the answer to fixing disease. Pharma shines in the ER, where symptom suppression therapy and ER specialists shine to save life from trauma. Using symptom suppression therapies with inflammatory response like histamine-driven swelling is like trying to submerge a beach ball by sitting on it. When she comes barreling out, if that water, it smacks your immune system really hard. Hello, Hashimoto's, diabetes, inflamed hearts, lost lungs and guts, insomnia, bloat, SIBO, SIFO, cancers, and GERD acid reflux from hell. GERD is resolved by clean anti-inflammatory diets like RCP, and taking oral digestive enzymes with every meal are game changers.
Acero Productions wrote,
Video is not correct. The reason bread was healthier in older times and in Europe today is because of proper fermentation. Each type of grain, wheat, rye, and so on, has a different fermentation process to become edible. Research Weston A. Price. The creator of this video has no idea what he's talking about on this subject whatsoever. This video adds to the confusion and perpetual bad health of Westerners.
Timberwolf 0122 wrote,
I make my own sourdough and we buy bread from local bakeries. It just tastes better, plus it's very satisfying to make your own bread. This video does make me want to build my own millstone setup.
At Andrew Hallowell wrote,
It's especially bad in America. In the UK and Europe, most American foods are banned because of all the banned additives and hormones used to bulk up animals.
At Twyla View wrote,
The problems in our modern food are never going to be improved with free market capitalism. I hate social engineering, but there are some things that should never be left up to higher profits. Food, water, and air must be kept healthy and nutritious. Public government has to set standards that make a level playing field for all capitalists to compete. Laws must be passed to set the standard and punish people that cheat on the standards. The reality of bread profit is a perfect example. We must call out our elected leaders and demand better standards for everything that is wrong in capitalism. Once we have our needed standards codified in law, we can let capitalism do its free market competition.
T. Bolivar wrote,
Here's my substitute for bread, of which I was never a fan anyway, which is so brutally easy and quick to prepare. Tapioca flour, very common here, in southern Brazil, where I live, and eggs. I'll mix about 300 grams plus 2 eggs plus salt, if you will, and certain grains to make it even healthier, sesame, quinoa, among other possibilities. Place it over my pizza machine to roast, and after about 5 minutes or so, boil. It doesn't feel like bread to the touch, it's rather rubberish. But hey, what a cheap, easy, and healthy substitute.
At An Actual Spider 6413 wrote,
No announcer, no cited sources, repeated quick cuts to stock images. This video smells of AI slop. There are several points that line up with what I was already aware of both scientifically and anecdotally, so there may be truth to the idea of bad bread, but the format really kills me. Talk to me like I'm an adult, not a kid needing a scary bedtime story. You're being poisoned by bread, oh no. Cite your sources and let me follow your investigative footsteps if I choose. Churned out entertainment. Thumbs down, sir.
At Minimal Tim wrote,
I was really hoping for a deep dive on wild yeast and whole grain wheat berries and making bread from scratch, but instead there's a lot of misleading information in this video. There was no IBS, celiac disease, diabetes, etc. These people just died. We have so many diseases, cancer, exactly because people don't just straight die when they have some problem like inflammation or celiac. Fortified wheat is artificially fortified to meet legal minimums. Wheat was fortified to solve the beriberi crisis. It also reduces the occurrences of several other diseases. Glycemia C and X, don't even get me started. This is a nonsense take on how blood sugar works by carnivore/keto dieters. No scientist backs this.
At Wabi 1516 wrote,
It ought to be pointed out that the average lifespan in the 18th century was less than 35 years. Now that average is 80. That kind of puts your bread theory in the clouds.
Calamane wrote,
This is aimed at U.S. bread makers. This is not a thing in the UK and most of Europe. Our bread is enriched, but it isn't stripped or nutrients to start with. Also, our bread ingredients are much better. But then most foods are better in the UK and Europe. American foods go for looks and taste. Making foods taste good is now a science, rather than an art. Putting honey in food will make it sweet. HFCS does the same, but is miles cheaper, and it can be balanced to make it last longer. Having chemicals in your food isn't the end of the world, but only if they are regulated. Having sodium, calcium, or potassium carbonate isn't bad. They are just salts. They do things but won't harm you if kept to safe levels.
Alberto Boyd wrote,
I've been wanting to make nutritious bread and sourdough for the past 2 years after moving to Philippines. Just got an oven and cut it all set up, but will have to order some stone ground wheat online. I appreciate your video was perfect for what I needed today.
As Simon Disu 1 wrote,
A fascinating video. My body could never handle bread till I started making sourdough at home last summer. Suddenly I found that a batch of sourdough pancakes would keep me going for hours without a loss of energy nor any hunger pangs. I can see that I still have one step to go in finding a good flour, but just changing to a slow fermented homemade dough and loaf has made a big difference. Thanks for your meticulous research.
Abudam who wrote,
I'll have to try Italian heritage flour. Also, a couple years ago I switched to sourdough exclusively. It would be nice to be able to whip up a faster Italian or French bread on just yeast now and again.
At Gerald Trudeau 3223 wrote,
Okay, so now I can't eat bread. I can't afford to buy meat. Fish is full of mercury and other poisons. Vegetables and fruit are full of pesticides. Exactly am I supposed to eat? Do I have to grow my own wheat and make my own flour? I know these videos are supposed to be helpful, but they really are not. I'm old enough to remember going through one of these national safe food convulsions in the 1970s. Turned out most of it was just propaganda for profit. Yes, the food industry is a horror show, but what other options do we have? We can't go back to medieval farming techniques because ultimately they will lead to famine. So get off your high moral horse and give us some real options.
As Sam Halsey 5051 wrote,
People who eat that nasty crap are food addicts, even if you gave them the highest quality 100% whole wheat with home ground whole wheat flour or sprouted 100% whole grain bread. Ezekiel 4:9. They would prefer the nasty stuff, in addition to sprouted 100% whole grain bread. Ezekiel 4:9. I put organic wheat germ on my oatmeal, which is high in spermidine.
At Flying Brian 7151 wrote,
We grind our own grain and bake everything with it, including our bread. We haven't bought a loaf of bread in a year and a half. It's been a game changer for our health.
At Israelo 8681 wrote,
Oh, so that's why it feels like I'm having a heart attack when I eat a sandwich with white bread. I did not know it was worse than straight sugar. The modern world is such a scam.
At Lyrog wrote,
At first I thought WTF is this guy onto? Bread is just bread. Never had ANY issues with it. Then I realized it's probably an American thing lol.
At Lil wrote,
It wasn't that long ago I thought whole wheat bread was good stuff, but now I realized how wrong I was. The WWB today are all F up by Monsanto. Basically 99% of breads sold today are toxic. They're basically poison for your body.
At Trevor Marcray wrote,
Bread was not the staff of life in the 1300s in the UK. Life expectancy was around 35, and the average height of a man was 5 feet 6 inches. They had a severe lack of protein. People were not thriving at all. Yes, bread today is rubbish. But bread in the 1300s was not something that made humans thrive.
At Coyote 27981 wrote,
It's not bread. It's your bread. Why do you need to make bread at a factory and not at a local bakery? That's how we do it.
At John Juhas 7476 wrote,
I learned to bake various breads buns and such from Austria's youngest profi baker 10 years ago, using only bio products. The flour I use is pure bio, no additives, not genetically modified and stone ground. Likewise, I use Keimling's meal for 10% of my flour requirement. Having complete control of the ingredients is a necessity. My breads, like those from the bakery, and not on store shelves, become like a rock within a few days. Are tasty and diverse, white and dark breads.
A Game on 0827 wrote,
512 You show a bag of King Arthur flour when talking about enriched flour. They're pretty much the only flour on the shelf that doesn't enrich their flour.
A Tony Berzio 4107 wrote,
This is all horse manure. That stone you are using leaves pieces of rock in the flour, which grinds down your teeth. Without the additives in bread, there are terrible diseases people in the Middle Ages used to get. We live longer than ever before, and it's nutty people who want us to go back to burying people from malnutrition.
A Jeremy Isaac 1354 wrote,
But these older people had incredibly difficult lives. Everything they did required rigorous physical effort. Everything was manual. Their bodies burned off the high carbohydrate load at a rate that we can only dream of today. We are sedentary, and our metabolisms reflect that.
And a Matrolda wrote,
The problem of today is exactly documented in this Click Hungry video. What do you know about the celiakia or Crohn disease in Middle Ages? Look at when the people died then and now, and think just for 2 minutes. If you have 3 digits IQ, you will understand that the whole hypothesis is just an variation of make XY great again. It was great in the past. Let's us bring the past back, and we will be all healthy and happy.
At Victoria Beale 5861 wrote,
I buy organic wheat berries from a local farmer where I live. I meal the wheat when I'm ready to bake some bread and let the dough proof for close to 24 hours before baking it. It's all so ridiculously simple that I regret not doing this years ago. The bread I make with water, salt, a little olive oil and a touch of yeast tastes very different from store-bought bread. There's also some wonderful psychological satisfaction I get from doing this ancient ritual that no amount of modern-day shopping for ready-made bread can ever fulfill.
At Best Opinion 9257 wrote,
Because it has nothing to do with bread. It has to do with effort/calories. If you have office work, you do not need much food, but people love to eat anyway.
Piccolo_re wrote,
I always wondered why, when reading ancient texts, they talked about eating bread is much and surviving off it. And why, when I eat bread, it doesn't do anything for me.
John Dingle wrote,
It is not entirely true that farmers spray wheat and or other food crops with glyphosate. It depends on the weather and risk of losing the crop because of a very late harvest. They do it, but because of the cost and regulations, it is not a blanket policy at every farm for every harvest. The market for high-yield wheat is what determines modern flour. To grow medieval wheats would be a lot more expensive in every way. If people are happy to pay the extra cost for proper foods, then fine. The truth is, the customer is happy to eat junk because they can afford it.
A Handinu 2.0 wrote,
I live in the Netherlands. The bread in grocery stores is so airy and soft, I am not sure if it's truly bread or just foam sprayed into shaping molds. Ever since I started baking at home, I have been enjoying my bread so much more. Now, to be fair, the regulations from the EU means that at the very least, this foam bread is not poisonous. But the quality is still abysmal.
At Sahilraman 5066 wrote,
While I do agree that the industrial manufacturing of flour is way more debilitating when eaten, but I think the main reason most folks back in the 1300s didn't get diabetes or chronic diseases are because most of them died before 50. The average lifespan was extremely low, mainly due to child-related deaths, but even going past 25 was a challenge back then.
At Martin Horner 642 wrote,
This superfood of which you speak, is it the same one that was common when the life expectancy was about 1/2 what it is now? I'm not saying they are related, but I do question the use of superfood here. Also, I eat modern bread all the time. I know millions of others do as well. I don't see bodies piled in the street for lack of space in the catacombs. I know I'm certainly not dead from it. I haven't heard the medical community railing against the evils of modern bread the way they might, say, tobacco smoke. I'm a little worried about people that are worried that our bread hasn't digressed into the dark ages properly. I'm worried about people getting medical advice from a streaming internet channel in 2025 called Medieval Way. I'm worried about people idealizing the distant past, which in no real way was ideal, and feeling empowered by maligning our food production and medical science with obvious and demonstrable false claims, misinformation, and plain lies. In fact, I'm just tired of people being full of T. I know you think you have a solid grift here, but you need to move along.
At Will H0724 wrote,
Apart from highly processed ingredients, which is already a red flag, note that we used to put real butter on bread. Now margarine, which in turn is highly processed seed oils laced with emulsifiers that nature did not supply. I guess we have ourselves to blame. As consumers, we want a perfect loaf, the slices of which need to fit our lunchboxes and last a week.
At Pyramisk 3264 wrote,
Well, back in the 1630s, they died of old age when they turned 55. I wouldn't hang my hat on them to give medical advice. Besides, it's only in the US people eat those crap breads. Here in Denmark, we eat rye bread, and it still makes you gain a serious amount of weight. Bread is just not for modern society where people sit in front of a TV all day. It's for farmers and soldiers that burns a gazillion calories.
The C.O._Jones wrote,
Yeah, medieval bread also wrecked your teeth because the millstones left bits of rock in your food. Also, unscrupulous medieval bakers would adulterate their bread with chalk or alum to increase the weight. So, cheating and poisoning people to make money is nothing new. I want the pure medieval recipe prepared and cooked with modern equipment and cleanliness standards.
At Zodiac Voodoo 23 wrote,
I inherited a sage and onion pudding recipe from my grandmother, probably hundreds of years old. It involves roughly torn up stale bread. It's a Christmas favorite. These days, I have to bake my own bread for it as supermarket bread like starch foam food product just dissolves into slime in the most unappetizing fashion.
At Rafflemoreksuski 1106 wrote,
The pyramid was built in 29th century BC. Enoch was the architecture the Scythian built it. It took 90 years to build it. Not one pyramid after it has ever achieved the sophistication. The pyramid is a calendar of the past and future.
At Robin Marks wrote,
I've been eating store-bought whole wheat bread for most of my life, but the last year or so, especially in recent weeks/months, it just tastes disgusting to me. I always encouraged my daughter to eat the crusts because they're healthier, but now I'm even pulling them off. It just tastes like nothing but chemicals now. I seriously think something in the recipe has changed, and this is like every single brand too. Is it more preservatives? I can't even eat a damn grilled cheese or PBJ anymore. Is it just my taste buds changing? I plan to start trying out some Irish soda bread today, and then moving on to other homemade recipes, 'cause the commercial stuff is total garbage, whether it's wheat or white emo.
At Enigma DKX, T4G wrote,
As a general rule of thumb, I look for bread with a calorie to fiber ratio of no more than 10 calories per gram of fiber, ideally something closer to 5. 1. I also make sure the sugar content is well below 5 grams per 100 grams. That's how I find the healthiest bread that both works for me and feels good to eat.
Tokashiza wrote,
I stopped eating bread because of all above issues. One thing I did realize is that sourdough bread does not affect me, especially the ones that are baked from a proper bakery with the least amount of added ingredients that are not need to make a sourdough bread.
At Forever Motheart wrote,
Yes, yes, and yes, beer too, pizza especially. I've had to change my beer to beer that has rice in it like Estrella damn lovely beer. As for bread, I do know what to eat now.
At JP Mason Dunn wrote,
I am non-celiac gluten sensitive and I get terrible digestive upset with gluten. But I make bread with water, salt, and gluten-free flour and I am fine. My husband has the same problem.
At Nicola Henry 539 wrote,
I have IBS, but since I have started making my own bread, I feel a lot better. I still have a way to go. I've started making my own sauces as well. They add things to the food for the longer lifespan. People are thinking they are eating better, but we are all more unhealthy. I have a mill near to where I live, and they have been milling flour for 100 of years mill grain. They are very welcoming and helpful. You can look around even though it is not very big, and you can get a cup of tea or coffee or a cream tea. That makes such a difference.
At Anitra 7747 wrote,
1870 is well before most of our grandparents were born. The claim that our grandparents didn't get ill eating bread presupposes they weren't negatively affected by the milling process. Yet the claim is the milling process is a component to what's making us sick. I'm not saying that there aren't legitimate claims being put forward, but they seem to be obscured by the inconsistency of the claims being made.
At Francois Labelle YF8TJ wrote,
Do not worry. Trump has pocketed millions from lobbyists to deregulate thousands of government norms to protect consumers, such as oil companies being able to pour fracking chemicals into waterways. We have to trust industry to safeguard our health and allow Trump to pocket millions. The MAGA way.
At Michael49 wrote,
The really truly healthy part of medieval bread was all the grains of rock left in from the grinding process. It's also why medieval people had such wonderful teeth and lived for long.
At Giangonzo 1982 wrote,
Nothing in our current society is there for health and well-being, and all of it has been corrupted to become vessels for profit. We have allowed the wrong people to steer our societies, and it's about time that was made public. Thanks for this amazing video. Maybe try standing in local towns and cities with a megaphone. It's up to us to educate each other now. Way too much corruption holding us all back.
At Unknown User 0090 wrote,
Thankfully, in Europe, we still have bread made the old way. Maybe not 100% authentic, but at least not as rubbish as the US variety. In fact, many US tourists that claimed they could not digest US bread and pasta had no issue eating European bread.
At Rybakov 2531 wrote,
Can you provide links to these studies? I started milling my own flour with an electric stone mill now, wondering if I should get a manual stone mill about 18 months ago, and it's been a game changer. I use spelt a lot and absolutely love it.
At Astrid Rohan wrote,
This was a very informative video. Are there any flour brands out there that are suitable? I make bread at home sometimes, but now I'm thinking of making everything. Pasta, bagels, etc.
At Willadenoix 8014 wrote,
I removed my like because peasants weren't working 12H a day in a field solely eating bread. Just try to do moderate workout every day solely on very good bread.
A Stormcrow 1112 wrote,
Overall, this is a great video, but my problem is that late in the video 2042, it shows a modern-day stone mill, milling the wheat berries, but the audio portion is saying that we mill it in ways that destroy its vitality. This stone mill is actually the best way to mill the berries in a modern kitchen. We make our own sourdough bread, and we use these ancient grains spelt, einkorn, rye. We are not large scale, we are quality scale. Our customers can't get enough of our bread and pizza dough.
At Durbig per 500 wrote,
As a European who's never more than 5 minutes walking distance away from a bakery that bakes fresh bread, usually 24-2. 7. It's stunning for what passes for bread in some places in the world.
At Ropt 457 wrote,
A few years ago in the UK, I managed a high-volume catering business serving simple food such as sandwiches and jacket potatoes. As part of our plan to improve standards and serve healthier food, we replaced the standard bread with a local proper bread, flour, water, salt, and yeast. It was lovely, but complaints went through the roof. It was a disaster. The bread was denser, and you had to chew it properly and slowly. People just didn't understand. It didn't keep for long as it was natural, so we would run out sometimes in order to have fresh product each day and also to reduce waste. People couldn't accept it. They refused to accept that items run out for good reasons. We persevered and educated as long as we could, but for practical reasons we just had to go back to the old stuff. Still used a local supplier, but it was the same as in supermarkets and other huge food companies. This meant it was ultra-soft, no benefits, and of course kept for ages. Lo and behold, all issues went away and we got endless compliments. It still frustrates me to this day.
At Scott 2542 wrote,
At 41, this year, I was diagnosed as long-term, undiagnosed, and untreated celiac. This has opened my body up to a number of other significant symptoms and issues, like an intense intolerance to lactose. My esophagus has been badly scarred from reflux related to both celiac disease and lactose damage. I suffered fatigue really badly, sometimes for months on end. I also suffer really bad digestive symptoms, and the brain fog is so bad. I am so glad I know what is happening, and now that I am managing this well, my life is slowly changing for the better.
Teddy Bism wrote,
2-week Elmo, I forgot loaves or hamburger buns and grabbed them 4 mo after X could not tell the difference. No mold either. ITISNOT bread.
At Dan 797 wrote,
My mother made her own bread rolls, breadsticks in pie crust. She had celiac. She could make French baguettes without wheat flour that tasted better than the ones made of wheat. She would make her own pasta also.
Chantalin wrote,
I eat Ezekiel 4. 9 bread that has to be kept frozen and has several kinds of grain and legumes in it, but no processed white wheat. The rest of our food is generally gluten-free because my daughter can't eat gluten and hasn't for over 10 years. I wonder if this is more what her problem is than the gluten.
Jean Luar Smith wrote,
I'm not disputing the benefits of bread made from heritage varieties or the health conditions arising from modern industrial wheat. However, how much do we actually know of the medical conditions of the peasant and working classes of the Middle Ages? In particular with diseases which would not have been identified as we do now at the time, since we've only known about diabetes and other digestive conditions for 100 to 200 years at most. While it's unlikely their bread would have caused the same conditions it does to us now, that's not to say they would not have suffered from similar conditions, albeit from different causes. Dirty water, for instance. And I'd hazard a guess that many would have perhaps given such conditions a spiritual label to it rather than a medical one. Still, again, that's why I don't eat sliced white bread anymore. Growing up in a country like France where your bread is always fresh from the bakery and never lasts more than 2 or 3 days before turning into a rock, it's a shock to the system to move somewhere where such staple shops simply don't exist.
A Bladed Spokes wrote,
It's the ultra refinement process for commercial flour. Bleached white flour has no nutrition, so they have to add artificial vitamins and minerals. There's no germ in it. There's nothing that is good for your body or that your body needs. They've basically stripped out all of the nutritive contents of the grain and left you with refined sugar polymers.
Adele Taylor 3988 wrote,
In the early 60s in the UK, when the super white Wonder Loaf was invented, one of my clients was a flour rep. He explained that a new wheat had been invented specially for the commercial baker's profit. The resultant flour absorbed water in larger quantities that previous flours, hence less flour used in each loaf, hence my client suggesting in the trade a loaf of Wonder Loaf was referred to as water standing UP. BUT, also the loaves were NOT baked, they were steamed. Then on the wrapper was proudly stated, added fibre, bit B, etc., because the natural goodness had been destroyed, so supplements had to be added. Went on to become today's supermarket PAP.
Etta Georgia wrote,
I have had high blood sugar and I have had IBS several times. I am a victim of my diet. I have unsuccessfully tried to give up wheat products. Thanks to your video, I will explore healthy bread.
At Ronaskar 3737 wrote,
While there certainly is a lot to be critical to in modern capitalistic food industry, telling us that life in medieval times was more healthy is simply ridiculous.
At Armadillo Godzilla wrote,
While modern food and bread is crap, bread was never a superfood. It was always bad. Since testative farming, diabetes symptoms have been documented and our height and brain size has gone down roughly 15%. Anthropological excavation and isotope analysis evidences without doubt that humans and our forefathers primarily ate animal protein, around 90%. Plants were just emergency sustenance.
Krickenstein wrote,
While I love your craft in making bread the old way, I don't like the oversimplified way of talking about things in the past. We're always better. That's a dangerous statement to make. Our knowledge over medicine has increased quite a lot, so where people with allergies just used to die now, they luckily tend to live and adapt their food intake. On the other side, there is a lot wrong with current ways of mass production of food. Let's focus on that, please, and celebrate the traditional ways of producing food.
A Bedbound Demi wrote,
How do we know the health status of people hundreds of years ago? It's possible that the people vulnerable or chronically ill centuries ago were the ones who were just wiped out by any infection because they were weaker.
A CPYPCY wrote,
I live in EU, so we still have bread. EU as a people just eat chemical junk. EU bread still use flour, water, and salt. You're welcome. In 2 days our bread is harder, and in few more days it's moldy and inedible. True food.
The Soylent Green wrote,
Pharaohs died of heart disease and diabetes just the same. People grew shorter, sicker, and died more often of their teeth after the invention of farming. Bread was always bad, but not as bad as starving. A dozen people fed on bread could of course beat one guy fed on fish, meat, and dairy. This is why bread and civilization won, not because bread made people strong or healthy.
Davendirk wrote,
Oh boy, you had my interest until you made the exaggeration with yoga mats. Now I know you're just a flat earther lizard alien conspiracy theorist. Good luck with your channel edit. Turns out it's BS, azodicarbamide is banned in EU and Australia, but that doesn't get you the clicks you want, does it?
Nonconformism 932 wrote,
Remember when bread had air pocket, thick crust, slightly burnt yummy, didn't collapse on cutting doorstep? Sandwiches TP Days bread is a tasteless gooey mess. If you cut it, it collapses, and a long list of false ingredients poison.
Ada 27 wrote,
You earned a sub with this. Fascinating stuff. And I also found a miller that grinds flour including emmer and einkorn that takes orders. This will get interesting.
Robneath R1G wrote,
New. Civilization wasn't advanced enough to protect people with health issues. It's not that people didn't have health issues related to eating before. It's that they all died off quickly.
Doomgoy 88 wrote,
I get brain fog, but generally only from store-bought bread. If I make bread at home, even with regular old King Arthur bread flour, I don't get any negative effects from it.
Frankslewa 362 wrote,
I stopped eating bread on a regular basis a couple of years ago. I really enjoy eating bread, but it causes havoc with my digestive system. Also, I shed some wheat too after changing my diet. Bonus.
Johnalai 4993 wrote,
I am an agronomist. I worked in the production control of new varieties of wheat and others crops. Speaking about wheat, the gluten content was a decisive factor to approve new varieties for bakery. It has been continuously rising for decades, and the industry is always looking for more. Total insanity.
Mr. Flippin 24 wrote,
It's even easier. Stop eating bread/pasta altogether and see if it helps your problem. This source of calories is easily replaced with healthy fats and non-processed food.
Jim Graham 4673 wrote,
This answers so many questions of why am I feeling this way. Starting today, I'm going away from store bread and making my own because I love bread and can't wait to feel the difference.
Vericlocaka 4406 wrote,
The bleached flour is outlawed in Europe. It is hard to get unbleached flour in Canada in a 10 kilograms bag in supermarkets. They only carry small bags at the higher price. Why don't they make larger quantities of unbleached flour available?
Golden-Stilts wrote,
An ingredient used in yoga mats and rubber is such a strawman nonsense argument. Please refrain from such bollocks. Cyanide is found in apple seeds. Rubber comes from trees. Water is a key component of acid rain. Everyone who has ever drank water will die. Without proper context, all you are doing is spinning things, and your argument is then far weaker. Why are these chemicals bad? What studies have shown them to be bad? I'm not defending their use or supermarket bread. I'm challenging you to do better.